soft jazz floated through the air of Le Dauphine, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. Crystal chandeliers glimmered above marble floors, and the quiet clinking of silverware mixed with the murmurs of well-dressed guests. The scent of truffle and wine filled the air, a place that thrived on prestige. The doors opened, and Jordan Carter stepped in, holding the door for his wife Amelia and their 12-year-old daughter Lauren. The family looked impeccable, Jordan in a tailored navy suit, Amelia in a sleek cream dress, Lauren clutching her mother's hand with excitement. They approached the host stand, where a white manager in his early 40s stood with a professional smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Good evening," Jordan said warmly. "Reservation for Carter, table for 3. The manager glanced down at the screen, his smile tightening. He hesitated a moment too long before looking up. He said slowly. "I'm sorry, I don't see that name here. Are you sure the reservation was confirmed?" "Yes," Amelia replied politely. "We booked last week, and even received an email confirmation." The manager tapped the keyboard, pretending to search again. "Ah, yes. I see. Unfortunately, we're fully booked tonight. There must have been a mix-up." Jordan looked past him, at least half the tables were empty. "Fully booked?" he repeated, keeping his tone calm. The manager's voice lowered slightly. "We could possibly see you downstairs. We have a more casual dining area there." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Amelia's smile faded. Lauren looked up at her father, confused. Jordan met the manager's gaze evenly. "Downstairs, huh? I see. No, thank you. We made a reservation for here. But it seems you've made your decision." He turned to Amelia and Lauren. "Let's go." As they walked toward the exit, the soft laughter of nearby diners seemed to follow them. Amelia kept her head high, but her fingers tightened around Jordan's arm. Outside, the night air was cool and quiet. The glow of the restaurant's golden sign reflected in the glass windows behind them. Lauren finally spoke, her voice small. "Daddy, why wouldn't they let us eat there?" Jordan knelt beside her, looking into her eyes. "Sometimes," he said softly, "people see the color of your skin before they see you. But we don't let that stop us." He straightened, his jaw firm, eyes fixed on the glittering city skyline. "They didn't want to give us a table tonight," he said, his voice calm but resolute. "That's all right. Next time, we'll make sure the table belongs to us." And as the family walked away, the lights of Le Dauphine sparkled behind them, unaware that the man they had just turned away would soon own far more than a seat inside. The street outside Le Dauphine was alive with the hum of New York nightlife, cars gliding by, laughter spilling from nearby cafes, the glow of neon reflecting off puddles from a recent rain. Yet for the Carters, the world had fallen strangely quiet. They walked slowly down the sidewalk, the air between them heavy. Amelia held Lauren's hand tightly, while Jordan's expression remained calm, but his eyes were distant, stormy beneath the surface. Amelia broke the silence first. "I can't believe that man," she said softly, her voice trembling with restrained anger. "He looked right at us, right through us, like we didn't belong there." Jordan said nothing at first. He took a deep breath, watching his breath mist in the cool air. "We've seen it before," he finally replied. "Different place, same story." Lauren looked up at her father, confusion and hurt clouding her young face. "Daddy," she asked quietly, "did we do something wrong?" Jordan stopped walking and crouched down beside her, meeting her gaze. The streetlight bathed them in a warm amber glow. "No, baby," he said softly. "We did everything right. Some people just can't see past what they've already decided about you." Amelia knelt beside them, brushing a hand over Lauren's hair. "You remember this, sweetheart, when people try to make you feel small, that says more about them than it does about you." Lauren nodded, though her small face was still tight with confusion. Jordan stood and looked back down the street. Through the restaurant's glass windows, he could still see the warm light, the laughter, the wine glasses raised in toasts, and that same manager smiling as he greeted another couple. Something shifted in Jordan's chest. The humiliation burned deep, but beneath it, something stronger was forming, not rage, but purpose. He slipped his hand into his pocket, pulling out his phone. He opened his email app, scrolling to the confirmation message for their reservation. He stared at it for a long moment, then smiled faintly, not with amusement, but with resolve. "They thought they were turning us away," he said quietly. "But they were really opening a door." Amelia turned toward him. "What are you thinking?" Jordan's gaze lifted to the city skyline, the towering buildings glowing against the night. I'm thinking that if people like him decide who gets a seat, he said slowly, then it's time we own the table. Amelia watched him, understanding dawning in her eyes. The anger that had filled her moments before softened into something else, belief. She slipped her hand into his. Then let's do it, she said. The family kept walking, their reflections trailing beside them in the glass windows of the city. Behind them, the golden letters of Le Dauphine shimmered faintly, unaware that the people they just turned away were walking toward a destiny that would soon reshape the restaurant itself. A week had passed since that night at Le Dauphine, yet the memory still lingered, sharp and vivid, like a splinter beneath the skin. Every time Jordan closed his eyes, he saw the manager's condescending smile, the empty tables behind him, the humiliation on his wife's face, the confusion in his daughter's eyes. But Jordan Carter wasn't a man who stayed wounded for long. In his sleek home office overlooking the Hudson River, he sat at his desk early one morning, sipping black coffee and scrolling through business reports. The skyline outside glowed orange with dawn. The walls were lined with framed certificates, signs of years of hard work, deals, and success. On his laptop, an email caught his attention. Le Dauphine Group seeks new private investors. He froze, reading it twice. The message detailed that the restaurant chain, known for its luxury and exclusivity, was expanding, but one of its flagship locations was under financial strain and open for new investment partnerships. The same location where they had refused him. Jordan leaned back in his chair, a slow smile forming. "You've got to be kidding me," he murmured. He called out, "Amelia." She appeared a few moments later, still in her robe, holding a cup of tea. "What is it?" Jordan turned the laptop toward her. "Look at this." She scanned the message, her eyes widening. "That's their restaurant." "Exactly." He leaned forward, his voice low but charged with energy. "They said they were full that night. But it looks like what's really empty is their investor pool." Amelia laughed softly, a sound that carried both disbelief and pride. "So, what are you thinking?" Jordan's eyes sharpened. "I'm thinking we buy our way to the table they refused to give us." He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Derek," he said when his business partner answered, "I've got a proposal. A restaurant group's looking for funding, one with image problems and a reputation that could use a little correction." On the other end, Derek chuckled. "You're not talking about revenge, are you?" "No," Jordan said, smiling faintly. "I'm talking about reform. About owning something that used to tell people like us no." As he hung up, he stared out the window. The city stretched before him, alive and endless, full of opportunity. The anger he'd felt a week ago had evolved into clarity. Amelia placed her hand on his shoulder. "You're really doing this, aren't you?" He nodded slowly. "I don't believe in burning bridges," he said. "I buy them, and rebuild them right." Outside, the sun rose fully, spilling gold across the skyline. For the first time since that night, Jordan smiled, not because the pain had faded, but because he now had a plan to turn it into power. Soon, Le Dauphine wouldn't just be the restaurant that refused to seat the Carters. It would be their investment, their victory, and their story rewritten. The glass tower of Davenport Holdings gleamed against the afternoon sun, its mirrored facade reflecting the city skyline. Inside, the air was cool and perfumed with money, the kind of place where every handshake was worth millions. Jordan Carter stepped out of the elevator, his stride calm but purposeful. Dressed in a charcoal gray suit, he looked every inch the investor he was, poised, intelligent, and quietly formidable. He was here not as a rejected customer, but as a potential partner. A receptionist greeted him with a bright smile. "Good afternoon, Mr. Carter. The board is waiting for you in the executive suite." Jordan nodded and followed her down a corridor lined with photographs, famous chefs, glittering restaurants, gala events, all part of the Le Dauphine Group, the same luxury brand that had once turned his family away. The meeting room was sleek, minimalist, and expensive. 3 executives stood to greet him, their expressions polite but guarded. The group's founder, Charles Davenport, a silver-haired man with an old money confidence, extended his hand. "Mr. Carter, pleasure to meet you. We've heard strong things about your firm." "Thank you," Jordan said, shaking his hand firmly. "I'm familiar with your brand as well." Davenport smiled, oblivious to the weight of those words. "I'm sure you are. Let's get right into it." They began discussing financial projections, expansion plans, and brand image. Jordan listened carefully, asking sharp questions, his business instincts cutting through every vague statement. He had built his wealth through precision, not just with numbers, but with people. After an hour, Davenport leaned back, clearly impressed. "You have quite the grasp of hospitality economics, Mr. Carter. It's refreshing." Jordan smiled faintly. "I take great interest in customer experience, especially how people are treated." The line hung in the air for a moment, subtle but weighted. Davenport nodded, not catching the undertone. "Indeed, that's the key to success." They moved on to final figures. The deal was straightforward, an investment large enough to make Jordan and his firm the controlling shareholders of 3 restaurants, including the flagship location. "The Midtown branch has been underperforming," Davenport admitted. "We're looking for fresh ideas there. New management, maybe a shift in branding." Jordan's pulse quickened. Midtown. The very same Le Dauphine that had refused to seat his family. He leaned forward slightly, his tone measured. "I'm very interested in that location." Davenport smiled. "Excellent. We'll make sure it's included in your acquisition package." Jordan signed the preliminary documents with a steady hand. Every stroke of the pen felt symbolic, the quiet rewriting of an insult into ownership. As he rose to leave, Davenport shook his hand again. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Carter. You're going to bring real class to this brand." Jordan met his gaze evenly. "That's the plan," he said. Outside, as the elevator doors closed, his reflection looked back at him in the mirrored walls. The man who once stood outside a restaurant, humiliated and dismissed, was gone. In his place stood an investor, a leader, a man in control of the very institution that once denied him a table. He adjusted his tie and smiled to himself. "The table's waiting," he murmured. "This time, it's mine." It was a crisp Saturday evening in Manhattan, the kind of night when the city shimmered with life. Outside Le Dauphine Midtown, sleek cars pulled up one after another. The restaurant's golden lights spilled onto the sidewalk, and waiters hurried to greet arriving guests. Inside, the atmosphere was elegant as always. Chandeliers glowed, violins played softly, and crystal glasses caught the light like stars. Behind the host's stand, the manager, the same man who had once refused the Carters, adjusted his tie and checked the reservations list, his expression practiced and detached. Then the front doors opened. Jordan Carter stepped in first, holding the door for Amelia and their daughter Lauren. They looked radiant, dressed not to impress, but to arrive as equals. Yet this time, something about them was different, an unshakable calm, a quiet power that needed no explanation. The manager's eyes met Jordan's, and in an instant, recognition flickered. His polite smile faltered. "Good evening," he said slowly. "Do you have a reservation?" Jordan's expression was composed, almost kind. "Yes," he said. "Table for Carter." The manager hesitated, glancing at his list. "Ah. Yes, of course. Right this way." But before he could move, a second voice cut through the air. "Mr. Carter. You made it." The manager froze. From across the restaurant, Charles Davenport, the group's founder, hurried forward, beaming. "Our newest partner, ladies and gentlemen," he announced proudly, shaking Jordan's hand. "The man who's helping us take Le Dauphine to new heights." The entire lobby turned. Waiters straightened, guests paused mid-conversation. The manager's face drained of color. Jordan smiled easily. "It's good to finally visit," he said. "This place looks familiar." Davenport laughed. "You've got an eye for good taste, I can tell. Let's make sure you and your lovely family get our best table tonight." The manager stood rigid, unable to speak, as Davenport gestured to him. "Make sure Mr. Carter's family is treated like royalty," Davenport said. "Yes, sir," the manager murmured, his voice barely audible. As they were escorted through the restaurant, whispers followed them. "He's the investor?" someone asked. "That family?" Jordan caught the glances but ignored them. He pulled out a chair for Amelia, who smiled proudly. Lauren's eyes sparkled as she looked around the grand dining room, the same one she had once been denied entry to. The waiter poured wine, hands trembling slightly, and Jordan leaned back, his expression peaceful. "Funny," Amelia said softly, her tone laced with irony. "It doesn't seem so full tonight." Jordan smirked, eyes glinting. "No. It seems like there's plenty of room for everyone." The manager hovered nearby, pale and uneasy. When Jordan's gaze finally met his, it wasn't angry, it was calm, measured, merciful. "Thank you for the table," Jordan said evenly. "It's nice to finally feel welcome." The manager nodded stiffly, retreating without a word. As the violin music swelled and candles flickered, the Carters settled into their dinner, not as guests pleading for a seat, but as owners of the room itself. The tables that once seemed out of reach were now theirs. And this time, no one would ever tell them they didn't belong. By the time dessert arrived, the tension in Le Dauphine had shifted. The room that once carried quiet arrogance now buzzed with whispers and sideways glances. Waiters moved carefully, their usual confidence replaced by nervous energy. At the corner table near the window, the Carters sat relaxed, laughing softly, enjoying their meal. To the other diners, they looked like any elegant family. But to the staff, the truth had begun to unfold, and it was shaking the foundations of the restaurant. From the kitchen doorway, two servers whispered, "That's the guy. The investor. The one who just bought part of the chain?" "Yeah. That one." At the front of the room, the manager stood stiffly, pretending to check his clipboard while sneaking glances toward Jordan's table. His mind replayed every moment from that night, the dismissive tone, the smirk, the "you might prefer downstairs." Each word now echoed in his ears like a confession. Then Charles Davenport, the owner, entered again with a broad grin. "Mr. Carter," he called cheerfully, drawing the attention of every diner in the room. "I wanted to take a moment to thank you again for your incredible partnership. Your investment has truly breathed new life into our brand." Jordan stood, his expression calm but commanding. "Thank you, Charles. I'm glad to be part of the team." Davenport gestured toward the crowd. "Everyone, please welcome Le Dauphine's newest investor, Mr. Jordan Carter, and his family." Applause rippled through the restaurant, polite but uncertain. The waitstaff looked stunned. Even some diners paused, realizing the quiet irony of the moment. Jordan smiled modestly and raised his glass. "We're happy to be here," he said. Then, after a beat, he added, his tone still warm, but carrying weight, "It's nice to finally be welcomed into this place. My family and I tried to dine here not long ago, but let's just say our reservation was lost." The words landed like thunder. The room fell silent. Every waiter stopped moving. Davenport's smile faltered slightly, his eyes darting toward the manager, who now stood pale and frozen, clutching the reservation list like a lifeline. Jordan continued, still calm, still gracious. "But that's the beauty of second chances," he said. "This place, this team, has potential. And I'm looking forward to helping it become somewhere everyone feels welcome." He turned to Amelia and Lauren, who both smiled proudly. Then, meeting the manager's gaze for a brief moment, Jordan added softly, "Hospitality begins with respect. That's the first change I'll be making." A soft murmur ran through the dining room, not scandal, but admiration. Guests nodded. A few even clapped. Davenport regained his smile, clapping Jordan on the back. "Well said, my friend. That's exactly the kind of leadership we need." The moment was complete. The tables had turned, literally and figuratively. The man once denied a seat now stood at the head of the room, setting the tone for its future. As Jordan sat back down, Amelia leaned toward him with a quiet smile. "You didn't have to say it like that," she whispered. Jordan smiled faintly, eyes still on the room. "I wasn't talking to him," he said softly. "I was talking to everyone who ever thought someone like us didn't belong." The violinist began to play again, the tension melting away into a new, warmer energy. And for the first time in the restaurant's history, Le Dauphine felt like a place where anyone could belong. Weeks passed, and Le Dauphine Midtown was no longer the same restaurant. The chandeliers still sparkled, the marble floors still gleamed, but the air felt different, lighter, warmer, more alive. The whispers of exclusivity had been replaced by laughter, conversation, and a new kind of elegance, one built on welcome instead of exclusion. The Carters' investment had sparked more than financial change, it had changed the restaurant's soul. At the entrance, a new golden plaque read, "Le Dauphine, all are welcome." On a crisp Friday evening, the restaurant celebrated its grand reopening. Reporters, food critics, and longtime patrons filled the lobby, curious to see the transformation. A jazz trio played near the bar, and candles flickered in crystal holders. Jordan stood near the entrance, greeting guests with the ease of a true host. Amelia, graceful as ever, spoke with the head chef about the new community menu program, meals that partnered with local farms and charities. Lauren, now wearing a small silver pendant shaped like a heart, helped hand out welcome cards to guests. Then, unexpectedly, the former manager approached, now just an employee, humbled but earnest. His eyes were downcast as he spoke. "Mr. Carter," he said quietly. "I wanted to say thank you for keeping me on. You had every right to let me go." Jordan studied him for a moment, then nodded. "I don't believe in closing doors," he said gently. "I believe in opening them, for everyone. Learn from the past, and do better. That's how we move forward." The man nodded, visibly moved. "I will, sir. I promise." As he walked away, Amelia joined Jordan, slipping her arm through his. "You didn't have to be that gracious," she teased softly. Jordan smiled. "Grace is how you win twice." Outside, photographers gathered as the ribbon-cutting ceremony began. The owner of the restaurant group, Charles Davenport, invited Jordan to step forward. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "please welcome the man whose vision transformed this place, not just with money, but with heart. Mr. Jordan Carter." Applause erupted as Jordan took the scissors and cut the red ribbon. The flash of cameras lit up the night. He turned to the crowd, his voice carrying over the music. "This restaurant used to represent exclusivity," he said. "But true luxury isn't about who you keep out, it's about how you make people feel when they walk in. We're here to serve everyone with dignity. That's what real class looks like." The audience applauded again, louder this time, sincere. Inside, the tables filled quickly, businesspeople, families, young couples, older regulars, all different, all welcome. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the energy, it was everything the place had once lacked. As the evening wound down, Jordan sat with Amelia and Lauren by the window. They watched the city lights shimmer against the glass, the same skyline they had walked beneath the night they were turned away. Lauren looked up at her father, smiling. "Daddy," she said softly, "we got our table." Jordan smiled back, warmth in his eyes. "Yes, sweetheart," he said. "We did. And we made sure there's room for everyone else, too." Outside, the new golden sign glowed in the night. "Le Dauphine, all are welcome." And for the first time, the words truly meant what they said.